Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Latvia once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good number of times before. So we're going to head to a little place called Jelgava once again, to the southwest of Riga, the capital city, almost right in the centre of the country actually, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Hopalaa Brewery. So this particular beer is called the Planet HBC 431. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out. Now, you might have seen that recently these guys sent me a big box with about 20 or so beers, I think it was, from them to take a look at, and this one is the last of the IPAs actually, so this will be the 7th or 8th review that I'm doing from these guys, and the IPAs so far have been pretty damn solid actually, and this is one that has an experimental hop in it, of course, hence why it's called HBC 431 at the moment. So I have to say, quite curious to see how this one turns out. I've enjoyed both the regular New Englands and the milkshake IPAs that I've had from these guys so far, and in the next few videos that I do from this brewery, it will be the sours that we start to take a look at, and then we've got some darker beers as well. So I hope you look forward to seeing those. But thank you again to Einars at the brewery for sending these beers across to me to take a look. These guys are starting to get their beers out across the continent a little bit more, and I guess they just wanted some reviews out there for people to take a look at. So yeah, thank you to them for providing these beers for the channel. So yeah, let's have a little look at this one then and see how we get on. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Hopalaa Brewery before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Latvian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regular at the moment because we're still working our way through these Hopalaa beers gradually, and hopefully we can add a few different breweries to that over the next little while as well. I would like to get a few more Latvian breweries on the channel at some point, and it's quite cool to be able to review these beers for you at this point in time. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Hopalaa Brewery once again. So, as I've mentioned to you already, Hopalaa Brewery are based in Jelgava in the Zemgale region to the southwest of Riga, the capital city in Latvia, and the brewery is owned by three friends. This is Rimants Pavziniuks, Kristaps Stankus and Ainars Rumjansevs. So Ainars is a teacher by trade, Kristaps has a background in finance, while Rimants owns his own marketing firm. But they apparently discovered craft beer after hearing a neighbour was brewing something called an IPA, which they had never heard of. So after trying this beer for themselves and being sort of blown away by it, if you like, they started homebrewing together to make their own version of this IPA back in about 2013 under the name Kaliu Alus, which translates to blacksmith brewery in English. But they gradually scaled up their homebrewing over time, having received positive feedback on their beers from friends, and they were encouraged by many to turn professional and start their own company. But over the next few years, they released a good number of different beers under the Kaliu name, and if you look at that on Untappd, you'll see there's quite a few English beers in there, a few German ones, as well as a few more American things as well. There's a good mix of stuff in there. But in 2019, they officially registered the name Fermentum, which acts as the parent company of the Hopalaa. So the beer is released under the brand name Hopalaa, and the idea is that using Hopalaa as their name, it's a little bit easier for people from other countries to remember. You know, as I've said in the other videos, Latvian is a very complex language, and you're not going to be able to learn that so well unless you actually grow up with it, I think. But yeah, it was basically to give them a more sort of recognisable or pronounceable name, I guess, in the international market. But as things stand, Ainars is the head brewer, while Kristaps takes care of the finance side of things and looks after the yeasts and fixes technical problems and so on, whereas Rimants is the marketing and salesperson for the brewery, and that makes sense as to why he kind of sent these beers over to me. But the brewery itself is equipped with a 1,000 litre brew kit, and they've been progressively expanding the fermentation capacity over the last little while. But they want to experiment with many different styles and collaborate a lot with other local and small businesses, and they've been doing that already for their stouts and sours to get some of the adjuncts and things that they put in these. But a number of gypsy brewers also brew their beers at the Hopalaa brewery as well. But as of July 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have released around 70 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I say, there's various different things in there. There's a good few different stouts. There are a few there's a few different sours and stuff like this, but there's quite a lot of IPAs. And I guess in a sense, Latvia has been made a little bit more known as a beer destination because of Arpus, and then Odu have been starting to get out there a little bit recently, and now there's these guys as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Latvia progresses as a beer country over the next few years. I still need to get over there and have a little look. I've spent quite a bit of time in Estonia, of course, but I need to get down and take a little look at Latvia and Lithuania. But hopefully this is the start of the Latvian beers getting out there a little bit more, actually. And it's cool to see more and more countries in Europe sort of joining the craft beer bandwagon, if you like. But that's all I can really tell you about Hopalaa Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. So that's it then. So let's have a taste of this beer and see how we go. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. So as you can see, it's quite similar to what we've had from some of the other beers previously. I do like the artwork that these guys put on their things. I have to say that it is very nice. You can see the can is sweating a little bit just because of the heat that we're getting here during Swedish summer. You can see here is the Hopalaa H that they use as their symbol, and that's also on at the back of the can round here, as you can see. But it tells you the ingredients list on the beer as well. So like I said, this one is a 6.5% New England IPA. So it's got Golden Promise, wheat malt, flaked oats and a bit of caramel malt in it. The hops in this one are Mosaic and HBC 431 obviously, and it uses an Imperial juice malt. And I first encountered that yeast from a brewery up in Norway, actually. And the name of that brewery in Norway has gone right out of my head now, which is going to annoy me. But Imperial Juice is a yeast I've been hearing a little bit more about in recent times. It's always been about the London fogs and stuff like that, and Lalamans and things over the last little while. But it's very nice. So just to tell you a little bit about HBC 431, I took a couple of notes on this because this is a hop that I haven't tried before as far as I can remember. But HBC 431 is American. It's developed by the Hop Breeding Company, hence HBC, which is a collaboration between Yakima Chief and Bart Haas. But the hop itself has between 14 to 16% alpha acid, and apparently it's known to give peaches and berries in the flavour with a little bit of herbal and earthy character as well. So 440 milliliter can, this one. I have no idea what you would actually pay for this in the shops in Latvia, because this beer, as I say, was a gift from the brewery. So yeah, they actually told me, oh, you don't need to review all of these beers, review a couple of them and just enjoy the rest, because they sent me doubles. So they actually sent me doubles of a few of these beers, and I gave most of the doubles away to other people to try and kept most of the individual ones for myself. There was one or two that I just didn't fancy, so I did give those away. I think there was like a pickle sour or something, and I was just like, no, so I gave that one away. But most of them I did keep. But let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. And again, a big thank you to Einars for sending these beers over to me. I will point out as well with this beer, this one is a little bit older than the other ones that we've had from them so far. So it's interesting as well just to see how these beers kind of stay over time a little bit. But like I say, this is the last of the IPAs that I have from these guys. So all the other beers are like sours, which will last a little bit longer. And also then also we've got the darker beers to take a look at a little bit later, and those obviously last a good bit longer than the IPAs and the sours. But no worries anyway. So as you can see with this beer, and as you would expect, it has poured a lovely sort of, I'd say that's a very bright sort of mango juice colour, this one. So I always like comparing the New England IPAs to different fruit juices, because that's just what their appearance reminds me of, and I would say that this one reminds me of a very bright kind of yellow mango juice. It looks a little bit richer to me on the naked eye than it will to you guys on the camera. I can see on the viewfinder, but you can see This beer poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say cream coloured head. I don't think that is a completely perfect white head, but there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. But yeah, it certainly looks as you would expect from a New England IPA. So remember, the colour of your beer is determined by 1, the type of malts that you use. This determines the magnitude of the colour. 2, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. And then any adjuncts and barrel aging will of course play a role. In New England IPAs, of course, that tends to not play too much of a role. Those, those other two variables tend to be more important when it comes to the various different kinds of sour beers, of course. But the level of haze in these beers tends to depend on 1, the type of, 1, the wheat content, 2, the oat content, and the yeast will also play a role in that as well. And it can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer. Recipe to recipe, I guess we could say as well. But yeah, certainly nothing out of the ordinary from this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. So yeah, I think that's all that we really need to say about this one. In terms of its appearance, it certainly looks the part. Nice level of haze to it, lovely bright colour. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one then. Now that is interesting. You can certainly smell a good little bit of that herbal, earthy sort of thing coming out of this beer already. Yeah, now that is interesting. Where do we start with this then? So yeah, the herbal and earthy thing is actually quite powerful in that. That's really interesting. I never would have thought that you could get that sort of thing, that level of it from a hop actually. So I'm just wondering with this beer, I'm hoping that it's still in good condition, that there's not been anything gone wrong with it actually. But I think we should probably be okay. Because it does it is mellowing out on the aroma. See, I have had beers that smell a little bit herbal and earthy in this way before, and there's been something kind of gone wrong with them. But in fairness, the more that we smell of it, it does kind of mellow out in a sense. So we'll keep going. We'll keep going and see how we go. But yeah, where to start with this one then? So we'll go through the aroma as we always do. So as I say, when you first smell this one, you certainly get a lot of that herbal earthy sort of thing. You can smell the peach out of it right away, and you can smell a bit of the kind of tangerine orange from the mosaic as well. But yeah, the hoppy characters come out of this one at you straight away. But on the malty, yeasty side of things, it's kind of interesting. So you can definitely smell a little bit of that golden promise in there. Golden promise I really like as a malt actually, but you can smell a sort of smooth white bready backbone to this one. There's a good little bit of a kind of bread crusty sort of thing in there. You can smell a bit of a smoother wheaty character. There's a wee bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose as well, and you've got some nice oaty. You've got some nice oaty creaminess in there as well, which I certainly like. So yeah, the aroma of this one comes out very, very nicely. So yeah, I think it does work out very, very well. So yeah, the malty side of this beer is quite nice, and we've had solid malt bases from these guys in the last couple of beers that we've had. So I'm not surprised about that at all, to be quite honest with you. But I think this one actually, compared to what I remember of the others, this one really leans a little bit more towards the kind of bready and crisper side of the spectrum, and I like the way the golden promise comes out of this one. As I say, soft white bread, bit of bread crust, and then a little bit of wheaty bitiness, some thicker oats, and you do get a little bit more of that kind of Werther's Original butterscotchy kind of brown sugar out of this, and a wee touch of a McVitie's digestive biscuit sort of thing. You do get all of these kind of elements in the malt base there. So yeah, that's interesting. But let's look at the hoppy side of things then. I think we don't really need to say too much more about the malt base in the beer. So yeah, hoppy side of things. You do get a good green component out of this one. As I say, you will notice that earthy herbal sort of thing that jumps out at you with this beer right away. The earthiness is going to be amplified a little bit by mosaic. Mosaic does have a little bit of an earthy characteristic to it of its own, so bear that in mind. But yeah, nice little bit of a kind of hoppy, earthy herbal sort of thing to this beer. You get a good little bit of a kind of grassy zestiness out of the beer also, which is interesting. So yeah, I'd say that the green component of this one is quite balanced. You've got herbal, you've got earthiness, you've got herbal qualities, a bit of a floral aromaticity, and some nice grassy zesty elements to the beer as well, which I really like. So yeah, the the green component to this beer is very interesting. So yeah, on the fruity, the fruity side of things, then for me, I would say for me the fruity side of things is interesting. So you have as I say, you can get a little bit of that sharper peachy note out of it, definitely getting that. I don't really get so much of the berries though, I don't think. Yeah, not so much in the way of berries. For me, the fruity aroma of this beer is quite straightforward. It's a good bit of peach. There is maybe a little bit of a kind of straight, regular kind of citrusy, almost lemony kind of note with it as well. But I do get the lighter tangerine oranges from the mosaic in this one as well. But yeah, quite a bit of peach, but I'm not seeing so much of the berry side of things in this. So yeah, in terms of the HBC 431, I should say, yeah, the earthy side of things, yep. The herbal side of things, absolutely. The peaches, yeah. But the berry side of it, not so much getting that. So we'll need to see if that comes out a little bit in the flavour a little bit more. But you can certainly pick up the nice juicy tangerine element from the mosaic in this beer. So yeah, I like how this one goes about its business for sure. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. This I always like trying new hops, of course, and there's a few really good ones that have come out recently, like Stratus and Talus, of course, as well. So yeah, never be scared to try new hops, guys. But yeah, take a bit of time to ponder over the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we try this beer then. So yeah, this one is the Planet HBC 431 6.5% New England IPA from Hopalaa Brewery in Jelgava, to the southwest of Riga over in Latvia then. So yeah, let's have a taste of this beer and go for it. I think that's lined up so that my OCD is happy, but yeah, let's have a taste of this one then. Slange, skill, cheers and prieka. Ooh, it's actually still in quite nice condition as well. Yeah, mellowed out quite nicely, I have to say. So the one thing you will notice about these Hopalaa beers is that the malt base is quite well balanced. I do find that you get a nice bit of wheat out of these. These, as I've said, there's a couple of different directions you can take a New England IPA. They can be more kind of farmhousey and yeasty. They can be sort of rye leaning and grainy, wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy. Sort of more bready and barley malt leaning, or they can be a little bit more brown sugary and sweet. And these guys have a good balance, I think, with a bit of wheatiness. You get a bit of wheaty smoothness out of them, but you also just get a little bit of a kind of you get a bit of oaty smoothness, and you also get a little bit of wheaty bitiness out of these beers, which I think is quite nice. They definitely have a sort of signature. They certainly got a kind of signature style for these New England IPAs anyway, and you'll find this. It's always interesting to see breweries kind of getting into the knack of things. You see this in the States as well. The Trilliums tend to be a little bit more wheaty and bitey, whereas, for example, the Treehouses are a bit more kind of oaty and creamy. And having tried a good few IPAs from this brewery now, you can see quite clearly that these guys like a little bit of wheaty bitiness, a bit of oaty smoothness, and I think the yeast is playing a fairly big role in this too. But yeah, this is another solid New England IPA from them. And I'm going to say straight away as well, people will be asking me what my favourite beer that I've had from these guys so far out of the IPAs is. I couldn't tell you, to be quite honest with you. If you try the same style from a brewery a lot, you always kind of forget. You always kind of forget which one is better than what. It's the same with Nerd Brewing here in Skåne. I've had quite a few. I've had some awesome stouts from these guys over the years, but picking a favourite out of those is nearly impossible. But yeah, these guys are doing some pretty damn solid New England IPAs. So if you like the ones that are a little bit more kind of wheaty and kind of slick in a sense, I guess you could say as well, then these ones will be right up your street. So let's try and break down the flavour for you a little bit then. So straight away with this beer, across the middle of your palate, you can feel a little bit of the barley malt in there. You can feel that nice sort of smooth white bready quality there. That goes right across the middle of your palate, both middle third and back third of your tongue. So if you go to either end of the middle third of your palate, you'll get a nice kind of bread crusty kind of element in there. But on top of that, you can feel a little bit of a kind of smoother, wheaty kind of quality out of the beer. And as you go into the back third of your palate, you can also feel that lingers there too. But on top of the kind of smoother, wheaty layer, you can feel a little bit of the oaty creaminess to this one too, which I think is great. But yeah, this beer, I think this one isn't quite. This one feels a little bit sort of almost lighter and crisper in the malt base than some of the other ones that we've had before. But just looking at the makeup of this Golden Promise wheat malt and caramel malt, it kind of makes sense, to be honest with you. And I'm also aware that before the last one, it was the 2 milkshake IPAs that we had a look at, which would have been thicker. And it's been a wee while since we tried the original 4, if I remember rightly, that we had the triple, the single, the double, and then the session. So yeah, this one definitely feels a little bit crisper than from what I remember of the other ones. So that's worth. I think that is definitely worth noting with this beer. I'm pretty sure the yeast in this one is different as well. But yeah, it's fairly solid, this. So yeah, on top of the wheaty layer, you do get a little bit of the oaty kind of smoothness there. You can feel the oats going down the kind of middle line of your palate, and then the sort of smoothness and slight sweetness just spreading out from there. Then in the very middle of your palate, you do get a wee bit of a kind of how would you say, you do get a little bit more of a you get a little bit of that, you get almost a little like circle, and that's where you get that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butter candy sort of kind of sweetness coming out of this one. So you get a little bit of that in this beer. But yeah, it really, the further you go into the aftertaste with it, I think it really starts to lean more towards the kind of wheaty bitiness, I think, and from the malty side of things. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting point to take away from this beer. This one does feel a bit lighter and a bit crisper compared to the other ones. But yeah, just to summarise that middle third of your palate, crisp white bready base, bread crust either end of the middle third of your palate, smooth wheaty layer on top of that. Then you get some of the kind of smoother oaty characteristics in there, and then on top of that there's a nice little bit of a Werther's Original type sweetness. But like I say, further you go into the aftertaste, it's the wheaty elements that come out of this beer. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. On top of that, you get you start to get a little bit more of a in that border region, you start to get a little bit more of a kind of you can feel a little bit of a bready build up in there, a little bit of a wheaty sort of bite, if you like, so you do get that in there. Then into the back third of your palate, as I say, you can feel the sort of breadiness there. The wheaty notes sit on top of that, and they're definitely a little bit more bitey on the back third of your palate. Then on top of that, you can feel the kind of yeasty qualities of the beer, and they feel a little bit lighter and airy, but at the same time, you do get a wee bit of that kind of more wheaty, bitey element to these. So yeah, when you start at the back of the palate, the flavour's a little bit taller like this, and it condenses down as you come further forward. And as you go into that middle third of your palate, it's a little bit more sort of it's a little bit more kind of squashed together. So yeah, I do like how that goes about its business in this beer, I have to say. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, I think we've covered the malty and yeasty side of the beer as much as we need to. So the green component of the hops first. So yeah, definitely there's a good little bit of earthiness in this one, but I'd say it's actually the herbal quality that takes a little bit of a a kind of front seat in this one. It feels a little bit like tea leaves or something like that in the back corner of the palate. That's the kind of level you're getting to with the herbal side of this beer. So there's an earthiness underneath. The mosaic is going to be contributing to that as well, of course. But as you move further forward on the side of your palate, you can feel it does develop to be a little bit more kind of floral there. But yeah, the herbal side of things is really coming out in the HBC 431 here, and I'm guessing that since they don't have another hop listed, they will be using these hops both as early edition hops for the bittering and late edition hops for the flavour and aroma. So I mean, obviously the earlier edition hops are the ones that give you these more kind of bitter elements, and the green component, as I refer to it, is always your more bitter thing. So yeah, definitely earthy notes in there, a little bit of a herbal quality, almost like an aromatic tea leaf type thing. Then as you come forward on the sides of your palate, it starts to get more floral and aromatic. I wouldn't describe the floral side of things though as being spicy, definitely more to say aromatic, but round the front curve of the palate you've got a little bit of a lighter sort of grassy kind of thing in this one. So yeah, it definitely is interesting how that goes together in this beer, and I can appreciate that. So yeah, thumbs up to definitely thumbs up there to Hopalaa for the green component. This is quite interesting. But yeah, let's focus on the fruity side of the beer then. So front third of your palate then, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again there's a wee bit of a bready build up in there, a wee bit of a bread crusty sort of thing. Then the base of the front third of your palate is a little bit more wheaty and kind of bitey in a sense. On top of that you've got that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And I like how this, I do like how that goes together as well. So on top of that, on top of that, as I say, you get that big fruity juicy sort of things. But then as you move towards the back of that front third of your palate, you get a lot of peach out of this. When we're talking about the HBC 431, yeah, you do get a lot of peach. Absolutely. The back half of that front third of your palate is all about the peach, and you can feel it sitting on top of those kind of more wheaty, bready sort of layers there. But as you move into the front half of that, front third of your tongue, there's a little bit more of a kind of tangerine orangey sort of thing out of this one. So yeah, I think that goes together very, very well actually. So I think the peaches and the oranges work together, so I can see why they would put mosaic with this one. I think it has a good depth, but I do wonder if the HBC 431 might struggle to be on its own in a sense because of how powerful the herbal component to it is, the sort of the aromatic tea leafy sort of thing that it's got. But that's just me. Some people might really like that. That's one of the main, this is one of the main reasons why I'm not such a great fan of, say, English traditional beers, because I always find the English hops are a bit more kind of herbal and things like that. So yeah, that's why I've never really liked the English bitters that much. For me, English beer is all about the porters and the stouts and stuff like this. But yeah, it's an interesting point to make that. I can see the peachy side of it's nice, but of the HBC 431, I can get on board with, but the sort of herbally, tea leafy sort of side of things, but I'm not 100% with. But maybe it's just, maybe it's like anything else. Maybe you need to have it a few times and just and see what you think. But yeah, peaches definitely come out in this one. I don't get so much of the berry thing that you're supposed to get in this beer either, I would say. But yeah, like I say, the back half of that front third of your palate is all about the peaches. Then in the front half, it's all about the kind of tangerine oranges, and you do get a wee bit of a stronger kind of lemony, limey, citricy note just behind the front tip of the tongue. So bear that in mind. Bear that in mind. But yeah, I like how that goes together for sure. But yeah, on the mouthfeel side of things, just to round off the review, I would say that this beer is quite mid-bodied. The carbonation, the carbonation is fairly smooth in this one. It does feel kind of clean to a degree as well, but I wouldn't describe this beer as being overly slick. It's kind of clean in a sense, so pretty much right in the middle of the spectrum. In terms of IBUs and things like that, I think this is a fairly standard, sort of 25, 30, maybe 35 IBU beer. I think it's probably 30, this one, to be honest with you. But it's a bit difficult to say because of the kind of herbal quality that the beer has, because that really does linger there into the aftertaste, that sort of herbally, tea leafy type thing with the beer. But the malt base, as I say, it's quite smooth. There's a degree of sweetness to it as well, but I think it's the wheaty bitiness that sort of shines through on that a little bit. And then with the fruity side of the beer, it's actually got a little bit of a kind of sharper, bitey sort of thing, the peach and the citrusy side of things. So I do like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business is quite nice. It's an interesting beer, but as I say, a little bit unsure with the HBC 431. Not such a huge fan of the kind of herbally sides of this hop, but I wouldn't let that sort of, you know, take away my impressions of the brewery, if you like. It's maybe just this hop that I'm not 100% sure about, but as I say, it could be the fact you maybe just need a little bit more time to get used to it. It's the same when I first tried sour beers, of course, as well. They might just take a little bit of time to kind of grow used to it. But yeah, an interesting beer, this one. And like I said, this is the last of the IPAs that we'll be looking at from Hopalaa Brewery for a little while at least. But yeah, we can leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Hopalaa Brewery, and we will return to these guys again for some sour beers probably next. I think I've got 2 or 3 fruit sour beers to take a look at, and then we've got some stouts and things. So keep your eyes peeled for those reviews. We'll get those up at some point soon. But yeah, this one was the Planet HBC 431, a 6.5% New England IPA with HBC 431. Supposed to be peachy, berry-like, and then a bit herbal and earthy as well. And it certainly gives you everything, although apart from the berries, I think, in this particular beer. But yeah, an interesting one. And thumbs up once again to Hopalaa Brewery. Another solid New England IPA here, but definitely a little bit lighter, crisper, and more wheaty leaning, I think, than the other ones we've had. But yeah, check out my social media, check out Hopalaa Brewery's social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and see you soon.